And a great big good afternoon, everybody. It's the Cabin Fever Podcast. Welcome once again. I'm your host, Brent Bailey, and it is a wonderful day here at the Cabin Fever Studios. We have survived another day. I've been praying for you and your family. Hope that you're doing okay where you are. I know that here where we are, my kids have been enjoying themselves. We've been out. My parents live on a farm here in Kentucky, and we've been quarantining here, and it's been a wonderful experience so far for us. I know that you think, wow, can that really be something that you are, can the quarantining really be a wonderful experience? No, it's not like you want these kind of things to happen, but I heard somebody say a long time ago, when you get lemons, you might as well make lemonade out of it. And so we came up here to visit my parents during spring break, and we had started this podcast right before we left, and Bob Harrison was our first guest, and the response was overwhelming. We were not expecting that kind of response. So many people commented on it and said something to us. And so then we decided, well, we might as well go ahead and continue with this. And so we continued, and the response every day has been, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday has been just so wonderful. And we're so grateful and thankful for you. While we're on here, why don't you just go ahead at this point in time and hit the share button on the podcast right now, right below where you're watching. Just hit the share button. Those of you who are watching on Roku or Apple TV or Amazon Fire or one of the smart TV type apps, you can't share it from there. But if you're watching on any of the social media, if you're watching on YouTube or whatever, there's a little share button right there. Just click that, send it on, and help us get the word out about something positive in the face of all the negative. Now, one of the things that we did start a couple of weeks in, actually, we started trying to give you some positive news in spite of all of the negative things that you're hearing. And we're not trying to overlook anything. We're not telling you to not use wisdom. We're not trying to just, ignore the virus. That's not what we're saying to do. But, there's only so much of that you can hear without it starting to affect you on a personal level. And we want to give you something that you can meditate on and focus on. And that's why we started the podcast, was to give you some positive things to think about. I know that, there's a lot of talk right now about them opening the country back up, and that's all coming, and that's all going to happen. And we're all for using wisdom. We're all for being smart about it. We're all about everybody being safe. But at the same time, that's good news to know that you're going to soon be able to get out of your house, and you're going to be able to go to a restaurant, or you're going to be able to go to, to the movies. And sure, there's going to be some new normal restrictions that are going to be put on. But the fact that the end of the tunnel is coming is a great piece of news in and of itself. Now, one of the things that we have been trying to give you, I know that the news media is very much all about the number of deaths that have happened, and it is a very serious thing. We don't make light of that, but you're hearing very few things about how many people have survived this. And as of right now, as of just when we went on the air, 2:30 p.m., the amount of people that have passed away from the virus is around 182,151. Now that's a very sad, sombering number. And we're not making light of that. Our hearts go out to those families. We're praying for each and every one of those people. We're praying for their families, because that's somebody's, relatives. That's somebody's son, daughter, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles. Those are real people, and we're not trying to minimize that. But on the flip side, if you're still here, you need to have something to feed your faith on. And here's a great number that you can begin to focus on, and that is 714,199 people have recovered from COVID-19. So it's not just all doom and gloom. It's not just the end of the world. It is something very serious, but there is a way to get out of it. Now, I know so many folks have lost their jobs, and I know that there's record unemployment claims right now. There's all kinds of questions about, the PPP here in the States for the Paycheck Protection Program, and there's all kinds of businesses that are closed. And a lot of folks thinking that this may be the end of life as they know it. And it is a very sombering thing. And that's why I have got a great couple of guests today. My guests today are here to help reinforce the fact that, just because things look a certain way doesn't mean that that is etched in stone and that's how it's going to be forever. And the first person we're going to bring on today, our first guest, has been, he's been dubbed or called Canada's Dale Carnegie. And I got to meet him at one of Bob Harrison's events. I got to introduce him and got to spend some time with him. One of the most genuine and heartfelt human beings I've ever met on the planet. I had the honor and privilege of writing the foreword for his new book that we're going to get to here in just a few moments. He's also one of the authors of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series of books. He wrote the one of the books called A Cup of Chicken Soup for the Soul, where they broke it down into daily reading portions just to help you get through the day. He's written multiple books. He is one of the most unique communicators that you'll ever see. I'm going to throw some stuff up on the screen right now. He does some things that are, some people would think, what is he doing? Why is he doing that? and the great thing about it is the next thing you know, you've sat and you've watched his entire message and it really hits home. And so I'm really, really, really pleased to have with me on the program today from Toronto, Canada. This is Barry Spilchuck, everybody, and welcome, Barry, to the podcast.
Pastor Brent, I'm so pleased to be here. This is awesome. In Canada, it's not snowing.
It's not. Wow. Well, that's like a small miracle in and of itself. So
it is. It was yesterday, but today, no.
just give it 30 minutes and we'll see what happens. Exactly. So, Barry, man, thank you so much for being with us today. I know that you've been doing a series of videos. If people follow you on Facebook, they see a video just about every day. But you've been a speaker and an author. You've been through lots of experiences. Let's just talk first and foremost about Chicken Soup for the Soul. You got connected with those guys and made a pitch to them to come up with the idea for something called A Cup of Chicken Soup for the Soul. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, this book came out way back in 1996. All the other chicken soup books were 6x9, and this one was 6x4, and so we called it Chicken Little. And again, there's a success clue. No matter where we are in this COVID-19 thing, we still have to show up. And we have to show up for ourselves. And here I am. I'm a little kid living in northern Ontario, Canada, 4 hours north of Toronto. And I became Jack Canfield, the guy who invented Chicken Soup for the Soul. I became his protege. Well, how does that happen? You show up. And I just kept showing up as a student. Then I came back for the in-depth class on how to train dealing with emotions. And all of a sudden he said, hey, how'd you like to come back and present every year? And it was like, where does that come from? It comes from showing up and listening to the Holy Spirit to say, what do I need to do in this moment? And it was, go show up. Even though you don't have the money, go. And I did.
And so how many books have you authored so far?
14.
14 books. And it seems to me, because I know a lot of times you're encouraging other folks to get the books that are inside them out, but it seems to me that you're kind of a guru when it comes to writing these books. Like you get it in your mind, I'm going to have this book done by a certain amount of time, and bam, it's done. How do you crank those out so fast?
Well, it took forever to write the first one. But the thing is, I feel that my job as an author coach sometimes let's step back a bit, especially since we're in the middle of this COVID crisis. We've all heard the expression that hurting people hurt people.
Yeah.
Okay. I always like to find the bless in the mess and say, well, hurting people also help people. They're called authors, speakers, pastors, because the most effective pastors, speakers, and authors are the ones who've lived through the pain themselves, found the bless in the mess, and now it's my job to help them take the gift that's in their heart and the pain that's in their heart and celebrate it in the marketplace so they can help somebody else.
So your new book, and I just want to say, toot my own horn for a second. I got to write the foreword for, and I was so honored that I know that when we were going back and forth that I was doing the writing for it, I'd never written a foreword before, and it was so moving for me that you even asked me to do it. But I read the book and finished it and was just so moved by, there was so much here in this book talking about The title of it is called, and I'm going to throw it up on the screen here real quick. It's called I'm Not Done Yet. Everybody Deserves an Encore. And Barry, when we were going through this and writing the forward for it, and I know that you were going through the proofing and everything, nobody had even talked about coronavirus. There was no talk about shutdowns. There was no talk about lockdowns. There was no talk about people losing their jobs or anything like that. And this is such a timely book right now. It's almost like you had some foresight that the Lord was telling you to write this book.
Well, it was. Again, I originally wrote it for those of us who are over 40 and we're saying, is this all there is? Or those of us who are connected to God saying, God, what do you want for my life? What is it you want? What's my purpose? And there's a 3-word answer to that what's my purpose question, which is really cool. But what happens is we tend to get stuck, and we bring back our old stuff and we carry it with us almost like a badge of honor. And then I'm going to carry around this bag of stuff. And then all of a sudden we go to a seminar, and then we trade in the bag of stuff for a wheelie cart. And now we've got a suitcase, but it's got wheels, but we're still carrying around our stuff. But what ends up happening is when you get to trust in Jesus, and then you can turn around and say, hey, I got it from here. Okay? Come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. I will cut off that burden that you're carrying. I've got your back. And so that's what the purpose of this book is, to find out how do we want to celebrate the rest of our lives, and what is it that's holding us back? Is there any old conditioning or old mistakes that we made, and we can stop it?
Okay, so right now, so many people are facing layoffs, uncertainty about tomorrow. Some people business owners have closed the doors. People have really taken a hit right now. There's a lot of meat in this book about how to come back out for your encore. That there is more to this. And I know we could probably just give you the whole hour and let you tell stories because they're just riveting and fascinating. But tell us something that it would give the people hope today that would really help them as they're feeling that right now.
Well, without going into the whole story, I learned my ABCs in 2008, 2009, in 18 months. Accident, bankruptcy, cancer, divorce, employee theft, all in 18 months.
Wow.
And the cancer, they said, get your affairs in order. And I said, hey, I haven't had any affairs. And the doctor goes, no, that's not funny. I went, yes, it is. So, and I even had to go to a psychiatrist. They sent me there because of the accident. And the guy said, how are you getting through this with a smile on your face? And he said, because I'm going through a divorce right now. We're arguing. And I said, I'm a God guy. And he goes, what does that mean? And he said, well, maybe I should come to you. So here's the deal. God is there for us big time. He will never leave us or forsake us. We know that. And I found a bless in every one of those messes: accident, bankruptcy, cancer, divorce. And I was able to turn it over to God and turn everything around. The accident, finally got a settlement. The bankruptcy, that was 11 years ago, we've turned it around. The cancer, the doctor said, get your affairs in order. Not 7 months later, God said, you're cancer free. The divorce never happened. And the employee theft, the guy even paid us back. So a lot of people say, what's my purpose? And I always like to turn it around and say, well, Jesus died on the cross for us. That was his purpose. What's your purpose? Well, what's your cross? What is the cross that you have been not burdened with, but blessed with? Is there anything that you can take that we're going through right now and say, okay, I got to let this go, man. Or I have to turn this around because I'm hurting. I'm not the only one hurting. How can I help others who are hurting? So what's your purpose? What's your cross? And then turn around and use that to bless other people.
Wow. That's so simple and profound at the same time. Barry, as folks want to catch up on some of these stories, I know that you're doing a story every day, and I'm going to throw your Facebook page up on the screen right there. Every day you share a story from the book and you share a nugget from the book. They can just go find you on Facebook at Barry Spilchuck, and it's spelled without the CK. It's just SPILCUK, CHUK. And Barry, just give us a real quick snapshot. What can they look forward to if they come to watch you tell your stories every day?
So every day it's just a 15-minute little lesson, and I call it the You Can Cafe. And so it's like you and I are sitting at the coffee table, and cafe, by the way, stands for Christ arrived for everyone, okay, or Christ arose for everyone. So it stands for both. And it's just like you and I were sitting in a coffee shop, and we're talking about the stories, and I just get real and real raw, and I talk about. There's a whole section on. As a matter of fact, this week's section is called Tough Stuff. So I cover everything from the time I was sexually abused when I was 8, and how to find the bliss in that mess. We're talking about today's story that I'll be recording right after we do this episode. Is called Bully for You, about how to deal with the bullies in our lives, and what if you're the bully in your own life. Okay, and so we just want to just tell the truth because it's faster. Rather than putting ourselves through all this stuff of saying, oh, why me? Okay, well, why not you? Okay, so let's just tell the truth, and then I tell the truth as far as I'm concerned, and I try to do it with biblical principles. Then you have to decide if it's true for you, and I give a little assignment at the end of every day, and in 2 days it's going to be really cool, because the book chapter and the story we're going to discuss is the F word that no one likes to talk about. And it's the forgive word. So I'll give you a little bit of spoiler alert there, So who do we have to forgive, and what if it's ourselves, in order to move forward?
Yeah. Barry, thank you so much for coming and being with us on the program today. We're going to have you back to talk about more of these fascinating stories and the things that you've got going on. Before we go today, could you just speak a blessing over everybody real quick?
Wow. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for being with us in every single moment of our lives. Please forgive us for getting all worried and forgetting that you're there, because you said you would never leave us or forsake us. Thank you so much for getting into every aspect of our lives and healing our hearts, and allowing us to turn them into halos. As Dr. Schuler taught us, we turn our hurts into halos and our scars into stars. We do that by turning everything over to you, Father, and we ask all this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Barry, thank you so much for being with us. Have a great rest of your day, and look forward to the video tonight.
Me too. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. That's Barry Spilchuck, everybody. And you'll want to go and grab a copy of that. We're going to throw that information up on the screen for you. You can go right on Amazon and pick up I'm Not Done Yet. Everybody, or everyone, deserves an encore. And it's a great book, especially the foreword. The foreword is the best part of the book. No, I'm just kidding. When he asked me to write that, I was so moved and so blown away that he would ask for something like that, and we were just so happy to do it. So anyway, but you can go and pick that up, Barry Spilchuck's book, I'm Not Done Yet. Some of you that have been facing some really horrible times right now and been facing some really hard situations right now, just know that you're not done yet. This is a book that was written, and it was timely for you. All right, my next guest is family. He's my brother-in-law, and we don't get to hang out as much as we used to. Only reason is because he lives on the other side of the country. I live in Florida. He lives in Washington, and I don't get to see him as much as we'd like. But I'm going to throw up on the screen right now some stuff that he's doing. He is a home renovator and a restorer. He does some of the most amazing work that I've ever seen. And when we were in Hawaii at his dad's conference, at Bob's conference, we were talking, and he was sharing some before and after pictures and some things. And it's just amazing to see what he's been doing and what he became when he moved out there. But then right now, in this time where everything's been a downturn, everything's been negative, he steps out and buys a property. And I'm going to throw this is the view from this property off the back porch. And I just commented on there. I was like, is it one of those restoration jobs that needs a lot of work? And he absolutely, it's a studs out remodel. And in the middle of the face of this, this opportunity presents himself. And I'm so happy to have on the program with me today my brother-in-law, Rock Harrison. Rock, what's happening, buddy? How are you?
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Greetings from the Northwest.
Yeah. Is it cold up there today, or is it beautiful?
It's not cold, but it's lovely raining.
Oh,
as usual.
Well, that's kind of normal. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, in Florida, you get tan. Up here, we rust.
Okay. All right. I'll take that. I'll take that. The only problem is that not only do we get tan, but our hair starts to frizz because it's so humid all the time. So, but
Yeah, and you can't cut it right now.
yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. So, man, look, I was so blown away. I'm going to throw it back up there. The picture that you put up of that view off the back deck of the house that you purchased. Were you looking at that before this all happened, or did this present itself during the middle of this?
Yeah, it was kind of in that transition. We had a kind of a slow market. Our market is really dependent upon Asia and China, and when that started to go south, a lot of dollars kind of get tied up in the Northwest here, and so yeah, that opportunity presented itself, and there's been a couple others. We actually purchased another property in North Bend the same time, and there's just a lot of opportunities right now. I find when people are in fear, if you're in faith, then you're going to be able to jump on a lot of things, because there's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming up.
Yeah, and so we had Mark and Carpenter and Mike Rovner on Monday talking about the same thing, and that was one of the things your dad said on the very first podcast was that there's opportunity that's abounding us right now, and I know that when you moved up there, you were just getting started in this kind of venture, and you really kind of had a great mentor to help you kind of figure it out how to get through that, but. For people that, and I know even at my church, I've got guys that are really wanting to get into this kind of thing where they're, they start to flip houses, or they're buying an investment property, or you're, and listen, we're not as young as we used to be, but we'll call ourselves young.
Yeah, exactly.
We're kind of still young in this. And so my question is, somebody that's walked a mile in those shoes, what's the biggest first step to recognizing those kind of things?
The biggest first thing for me is just gaining knowledge. I spent probably quite a bit of time. I mean, I started doing this as a hobby in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and rehabbing and fixing things up. And in fact, I bought my first real estate property when I was 19 years old. And so that was something that I've always had a desire to do. And so I just over time built up that knowledge. And you kind of, as you increase the knowledge, that kind of strengthens your faith, and you get to a place where you're able to jump out. One of the things I did when I moved up here is I started really mastering just a few markets versus trying to learn a whole area. Now I have a good grasp on the whole region, but before, when I first came, I really focused just on a couple cities, and I would just go down and do what I'd call like dry runs. So I would pretend like I was going to buy a property, and I would research the information. I would go down to the auction. I would get the title information. And I did that several times before I actually, really jumped in. But when I was ready, I was ready. And so I think that's the biggest thing is fill those question marks with knowledge and information, and that will really help take you through that.
Now, you just said something, and I don't know if everybody caught that, but you would actually go and sit in an auction and sit and listen to what everybody's bidding and seeing kind of getting a mastery of what it was going to go for.
Yeah, for 6 months, I would go to these investor meetings. I would go to these the auctions they're on Fridays. Normally they start at 10, they go to like 3 o'clock. I would go to all kinds of investment groups. I joined a couple forums on the internet, and I basically would even take, and I wish I probably had a couple folders, but I would take and start a file on a potential property that I would be interested in purchasing, but I didn't have the funds and I wasn't quite ready at that time, but I would walk all the way through the steps, all the way to the auction, and I would even go to the auction and see what that property sold for, see who the bidders were. I in fact, a couple times I even talked to those bidders afterward, gained some information on that, and just really educated myself on how to do it before I ever just jumped in.
Yeah, it sounded like you're really increasing your capacity to handle these kind of things. And so, at what point did you make your first jump? Did you become familiar enough to where I think this one's going to go for this, and you start hitting the marks that you think you're going to get to, and then you took the step?
Yeah, it was a combination of on the backside, I was building up my resources to be able to purchase the property. So I was, I had done a line of credit. I had made some money on the construction side, and just a combination. I was putting my resources together while I was studying, and so basically it just came to a place where my knowledge, I felt comfortable enough with my knowledge to take that step of faith, and I had put the resources in place to be able to do it. So when those joined, it's kind of like when miracles meet opportunity. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, opportunity meets. That's when, for me, it just took off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask this question. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I know personally guys that are in your shoes back then. What's the best way? What's the best way to collect the resources? Because that's going to be a stumbling block in a lot of people's minds. Like, well, I don't have it, and I don't even know where to get it. What were
Right.
you doing? Just putting a little weight at a time, or how were you doing
It
that?
was a combination of both. One of the things that I did when I was starting out is I purchased a couple houses and would live in the homes. I'd rehab them for like 2 years, and then I would sell them, and that way I could get out of paying the taxes because I had the estate tax
Brilliant.
void. But basically, you wouldn't have to pay income tax on properties that you own personally if you hold them for more than 2 years. So we did that a couple times. On the third time, I increased the value, but I wanted to stay in the house, so I got a line of credit. Some people have resources through family; they can partner with a family member or something, or and then on the business side, just living below your means, so you can try to build up your cash also.
Yeah.
So there's no magic. I think the harder part is really getting the knowledge of how to do it and the deals. And oftentimes when you find a great idea or you have a great deal, you can find the investment, you can find the money. That's been my experience is when I have found the deals, I can go out and find the money because the deal will make sense to a lot of people.
Awesome. So now I'm going to throw one more picture up. I already threw it up once, but looks like you and Lee had a little romantic dinner on the back deck of that apartment there, or that property there.
Yeah, that's a great example of just seizing the moment and taking advantage of it. When we were in the middle of the construction on the property, I mean, it was a studs out remodel, so it's completely torn up, but the deck is just gorgeous, and it's in a setting that I have literally rarely have ever seen. And so I came up with this idea. I was like, look, I'm going to take advantage of this. We can't go out on these dinner dates and things like that. And so I just I ordered in some food, and I just staged it. And we had an awesome evening out there on the deck. I posted it on Facebook. I got calls from several of my friends that, hey, can I do that? And so I've had several friends going. I had actually a text just a few minutes ago from a friend that reserved it for Sunday. So it's been great. It's been a great little spot for people to just get away during these times. So it's great.
That's awesome. So I'm going to put your information up for your website and things like that right now. As people want to reach out to you, it's CompleteRR.com. On Instagram, it's Rock I Harrison, and on Facebook, it's Complete Remodeling WA for Washington on Facebook. And I know that that you've not been holding these things in as a secret. When people have asked you, you've been able to share a lot of this information with other people as well.
Sure. Be happy to.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are in difficult times. They're kind of scared right now. And, we've gone through, one of the things that's been great is I've gone through this in that 09, 2000, that earlier crash, and, just learned so much through those times that I've realized that, these things are cyclical. And one of the things my father's taught me is that life is a collection of seasons, and that, it's important to realize that this is going to pass. And what can you do during this season that's going to be able to catapult you, in the next season? Because spring is coming, summer is coming, the harvest will be coming. And so for some of us, it's just realizing what it is that we can do during this winter time that's difficult to put us in a better position, going forward.
Yeah. Rock, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I don't know how busy it is. I know we talked a little bit. You were able to do some stuff, but thanks for taking the time to come and be on the program today. We appreciate. Can't wait to see you again. Whenever the next time we get together. So
Be happy to, bud.
All right,
Take
take care. All right, that's Rock Harrison, everybody, of Complete Remodeling and Restoration out of Washington, and he's got a tremendous business going on up there. And it didn't start. It started in the first crash of 0809. So, those are the kind of things that right now you're in the middle of a place, in the middle of a season. This could be your turnaround, even though it feels like it's not, even though it feels like things are falling down and going out all around you. You are in the middle of an opportunity that if you can recognize it, this could be the next jump for you. I know a lot of folks. I spoke to my dad, my dad and his brothers are going to be on the program here in just a few weeks, and they're going to be talking about some of the things that they're into. But my dad and I've been talking a lot about. He's looking at oil as a chance to be a great investment in. And so if you have that kind of mindset, this is the opportunity in the season for you. This is not all there is. It is what you can make it to be. So with that being said, until Friday, I've got a great podcast scheduled for you. I've got Pastor Mark Hankins from Louisiana who's going to be on the podcast with me, and he's going to be talking about the revelation of how you as a believer in Christ can ride out something like this and come out the other side even more blessed than when you went in. All right, so I hope you have a great rest of your day. We love you so much. Get outside and beat the cabin fever. God bless everybody. We'll talk to you soon.